The time has come. It's a very, very exciting day because we are starting our very first RTX 4090 build. But before we get into that, here's a quick word from this video sponsor. Yeah. You looking for performance? Well, have I got the goods for you? This bad boy has everything you need, and it comes in up to 2 terabytes. So size isn't a problem. Also, forget about SATA or those super slow hard drives, as it's PCIe Gen 4 for blazing fast speeds. And this baby is M.2, so you can attach it directly to your motherboard. No hassle, no extra wires. This is the best around. You interested? Find out more by clicking the link in the description below. So, as you may have seen the other day, we did a unboxing of kinds with 2 RTX 4090s, one of them being the Gigabyte card. So I thought I'd actually do a build based around that. This is going to be the first time that we're really doing a build that's actually focused on the RTX 4090. But there's a couple of other parts that we need to talk about because some of the stuff that's going on here today is pretty damn special. And we're going to start with a processor. So this is the Intel i9 12900K. At the time of filming this, we all know 13900K is coming, but at the time of filming it, this is the daddy at the moment from Intel. So it packs 16 cores, 8 of them being performance cores, 8 of them being efficiency cores, and due to them performance cores having hyper-threading, we've actually got 24 threads with a max turbo speed of up to 5.2 gigahertz. Also allows us to use things like DDR5 and things like that. So lots of cool stuff that kind of comes along with that processor. Now, that processor being pretty damn special, we are going to need a pretty damn special motherboard to put it in, and that is where this comes in. This is the MSI kind of MPG Z690 Carbon EKX. This is a bit like an MSI EK kind of love child. So the reason behind it is the Carbon motherboard from MSI is a very, very popular motherboard. So EK have kind of taken it, and it's not the first time they've done it, and kind of put their own little spin on it. So compared to the new normal kind of Carbon motherboard, this is actually what you get. It looks a bit bare because there is actually a monoblock, which also comes in the box, which is going to go over the CPU and the VRMs, and it looks a little something like this. Now, for anyone who's never kind of water cooled or done anything in that, let's say, realm before, this is gonna probably seem a little bit daunting at first, but what it means is that you're going to be able to push your hardware as far as you can because you're going to be cooling not only the processor, but the VRMs and your phases as well. Now, when I say this motherboard's a little bit crazy in terms of the VRMs, we have actually got 18 plus 1 plus 1, and they are rated for 75 amps each. Now, obviously you have to put your processor in, but you do get all of the kind of relevant stuff, heat pads, as well as all the fixtures and fittings to put the monoblock on there. And it's not kind of as difficult as maybe it first seems. Now, other features on this motherboard do include PCIe Gen 5 for our NVMe. Not that there's any drives out there at the moment, and we will actually get to the NVMe drive we're using because, you know, it's not slow by any stretch of the imagination. We also have PCI Express Gen 5 on the PCI Express slot as well for graphics cards. That we don't quite have PCI Express Gen 5 graphics cards yet. But that's besides the point. What I'm trying to get at is that this is future-proof ready. It also has 2.5G Ethernet for lightning fast blistering networking speeds, as well as Wi-Fi 6E, which comes as part of the Z690 chipset. It also has a ton of USB ports, including Type-C, which is going to give you up to 20 gigabit per second speeds. And along with the monoblock, which obviously does plug into the motherboard with an addressable RGB header, it does mean that everything on this motherboard and anything connected to it can be controlled through Mystic Light. So for anyone who's ever seen any of my build videos before, which I'll admit, this has actually been quite a long time since the last one, but you'll know that I like to build as much as I physically can on the board before actually getting it into the case. It just makes life a little bit easier. You're not kind of having to, you know, play with the case and get all kind of mixed up with cables and stuff like that. Not that we should have any problems with this case because it is actually open air. We will get to that very, very shortly. Now, SSD wise, we are using the Kioxia Exceria Pro 2TB NVMe drive. Now, I said it's not Gen 5, but it is a Gen 4 drive, and it does mean that we get 7,300 megabytes a second read speeds, and slightly sort of slower than that, so still amazing speeds on the right. Okay, so with our CPU and our SSD already in place, what we are now going to need is our memory. And because this is a little bit of a special build, I mean 4090, and as you can probably tell, the case isn't you know, your ordinary case. We've gone slightly different with the memory as well, from a brand that maybe not many people have heard of outside of Asia, but this is the V-Color Manta. And I say it's pretty special for a couple of very, very good reasons. Firstly, it is 6600 megahertz in speed. And because this is a Z690 board, it can handle them speeds no problem at all. We've actually tested these on Intel Z690 boards from MSI and had no problems whatsoever. So what we've actually got here are two 16 gig modules. These are called the Manta Sky range. And as you can see, they are reflective as hell. But the coolness doesn't stop there. Yes, it has now got fingerprints all over it, so well done, Andy. But it's got the eTeknix branding on there as well. So we are not sort of, you know, going slow when it comes to anything. We've got the latest and greatest from Intel when it comes to the processor. We've got the latest and greatest when it comes to the Gen 4 NVMe drive from Kioxia. And now we've got this super fast 32 gig, 6600 megahertz memory in there as well. And everything is looking pretty damn fine. Okay, so when you actually want to come to install the monoblock itself, I'm a little bit annoyed by EK because they give you the thermal pads, like this one is actually meant to go on top of the SSD, and then the monoblocks now actually include a plate to help keep the SSD cool. Then you get sort of different thicknesses, but there's not much in it. I think this is 0.75, this is 1mm, but you have to cut them to size yourself. I mean, I get it, these are all very, very generic, but it personally would have been nice to have them, you know, cut down to size. Surely there would have been like less wastage and stuff like that as well. So all you've really got to do is measure up the kind of thermal pad, and it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be kind of roughly where things are, which we've got the length about right, and then we're gonna go a little bit on the width as well. And yeah, you just sort of cut it down to size, and then you can get it into place on exactly where it's got to go, and everything is actually listed in the manual for it as well. So EK don't believe in having paper manuals, so you actually scan a QR code, which is quite nice, and then that will give you all of the instructions on how to actually affix this to the various parts of your power stages. So once all your thermal pads are cut and sort of, you know, to size, this is how it's all going to look. Now ideally what I actually like to do is to get the monoblock itself, and you can grab it, take the little thing off. They do make it bright yellow because you'd be surprised how many people kind of fall for that. Grab the monoblock and kind of, because it sits underneath the IO shielding, what you actually want to do is kind of position it into place like so and get kind of a rough placement for it. And then what you can do is turn it over, and it's just kind of a matter of a little bit of wiggle room to try and get it exactly into place so that the screw holes all line up properly, because you should be pretty much there because you have actually got 8 screws to kind of put into place. So we have got a backplate bracket with a little rubber gasket on there as well, just to protect the PCB. So you can put that over like that, put that over like that. And for some reason, EK, they always send over sort of different washers and things. I'm pretty sure it's all kind of part of a generic set. So you have got these little washers. We're going to use it, but it doesn't actually say to use it within the manual, but it's not going to add a lot of thickness to it, but it's just going to give us that extra kind of peace of mind. So what you want to do, just like with anything that you screw down, is do it in sort of opposite. So if we get that side in, then get the corner in, you don't really want to screw it all the way down. You want to put everything else in and then sort of go round and tighten everything up. So once you've got them kind of into place, then you can look at putting the smaller ones in for the VRM. And then you are going to need some kind of a toolkit with a Phillips screwdriver head on it just to screw them down, and then you can tighten everything into place. So to screw everything down, I always like to use the eTeknix PC Maintenance Toolkit, which is available on store.eteknix.com, and you can just go around and just make sure everything is tightened up, including the smaller screws, which just hold the block onto the VRMs. And this is now how it looks. So it's actually starting to kind of take some shape. You can then find your addressable RGB header, which on this particular board is just at the top, and put that onto there. And now it's basically ready to go and be put into our case. Okay, so fans to one side. These are the Prism ARGB P120s. We will get to them very, very shortly. I want to talk about the case because this really is the star of the show. This is the Antec Cannon. It is a pretty much an extremely unique looking case. It's made out of aluminium alloy, it's open air, and the beauty of it is it can be stripped down into like just a bare bones kind of chassis. It really does give you that kind of full flexibility to, you know, do what you want with it, especially if you are water cooling, which is the whole purpose of this. And it kind of leads me on to kind of the point of this video, because I am very, very unsure as to if our graphics card is even going to fit in this, just purely because it's huge, it's thick, it's a 4090. So what we may have to do is actually split this video into parts. But the beauty is just everything is toolless. You get the PCI Express Gen 4 riser with it as well. Things can be adjusted, like the front can actually move outwards to give you sort of more space for thicker graphics cards. It can move up and down in terms of the graphics card. You can put radiators in the front, in the back, in this kind of side area, along with your pump for water cooling as well. This side panel comes off, the other side panel comes off, this bottom bit comes off. I mean, it just, you know, strips down to basically bare bones. But the beauty is as well, you don't lose out on any functionality that I can see, because you have a chamber right down the middle, which is going to be perfect for, you know, cable management and things like that. You've got USB Type-C. There's just, yeah, it accepts eTeknix motherboards as well, and up to 385mm graphics cards, which is very interesting because our graphics card is actually 340mm, so it should fit, but I'm really, really worried about the thickness. So this is kind of what I'm thinking. We could water cool the whole PC with a graphics card, but we may have to wait for a water block because a 4090, technically at the time of filming this, isn't out. So we may have to just sort of wait for that, or we just water cool the CPU and just sort of go from there. But let's get it stripped down and at least get the motherboard in and kind of see what we're dealing with. Okay, so first glance of this, and I'll admit off camera I did have to check, the motherboard doesn't go the conventional way that you'd expect. It actually goes like this, which just seemed really, really strange because of obviously getting to the relevant cables on your back panel and stuff like that. But I guess it kind of makes sense as well. So yeah, let's go with that. So this is how it looks at the moment. And I'm trying to get my head around it. I can make sense of it, but it also kind of doesn't make sense. So having the motherboard like this does mean, because of the type of case it is being kind of open air, you aren't going to have any problems with cable management because everything's going to be hidden behind the panel that sits here. So I like the idea of that. It just seems unconventional, but I'd like to think Antec kind of know what they're doing when it comes to it, and they have made these particular design choices for a particular reason. So obviously we've got front panel headers and things to put on. We do have to put the PCIe Gen 4 riser cable on there as well. But we do need to decide, is our GPU going to go here? Is it going to go here? Because this whole plate actually does come off and can be attached here. If we keep it there, I can tell you now, the GeForce RTX 4090 gaming OC that we got from Gigabyte is not going to fit. No way. And I'm still a bit unsure in the front. But I think there's more chance of it potentially fitting in the front because the side panel is just not going to fit on here. Or we could potentially wait, get a water block for the GPU, and then sort of go a little bit further. Now, I was kind of hoping I'd be maybe a little bit further in this video, but I kind of feel like maybe we should split this up into two parts. Now that we've kind of got this built, I can put all this on off camera. We can maybe do some measurements and see what's going to work and see what we're going to do radiator wise. I don't really like the idea, even though it can be done, I don't really like the idea of putting a 360mm rad at the front, because this case can actually accept three 360mm rads. You got the front one, which can take up to 45mm thick. So again, this means we can measure our graphics card to see if it could potentially go there, or if we have to wait for a water block for it to be released. In the rear, you can fit another 360mm, which again is 45mm thick. I'm guessing these are actually kind of the same, you know, to keep it symmetrical. And you can also fit a 360mm rad just along here, and then you can have your water pump and everything underneath, or you can put your water pump where the graphics card riser actually is if you were to move it around to the front. So you really do get kind of flexibility, and it allows you to do kind of what you want to do with it. So we do have some choices, and obviously with that it does give us the choice of having up to, I think it's 12 fans in total, 3, 6, 9, apparently you can fit them elsewhere. Now, we do have other parts that we were going to talk about, like the fans, the Prism 120A RGBs. We've got the Antec signature power supply as well. I think we're going to do this in another video. I actually want to kind of study this a little bit, kind of work out exactly how I'm going to do things, but also leave it up to you guys. So let me know, what should we do? I'm going to put the link actually to this case down into the description and into the comments, because I'm kind of torn with how I want to do it. I'm probably going to go 360mm rad in the back and also one in the side, because, well, a lot of that depends on if I'm actually going to water cool the RTX 4090. I want this to come out pretty damn special, so I don't want to, let's say, half-arse it. So I'm thinking 360mm in the rear. If we're only doing the monoblock, 360 will be enough. If we're going to do the GPU as well, I'd like to add in another 360. So I need to actually speak to EK to see if I can get a block for this, if there's one available. If not, how long is it actually going to take? Then that will kind of dictate as to if we're going to keep this air-cooled. If we are, is it going to fit in the front? Because no way is it going to fit here. And that's not a problem of the case, because it's a very functional case in terms of the size that it allows for components. I mean, we can actually fit an eTeknix motherboard in here. It's actually down to the fact that the RTX 4090, which I'll show you guys, because it's just, if you haven't seen our unboxing of it, it's just ridiculous. I mean, this is it. So if we were to put it here, that's kind of how it would look, obviously in the slot, but it comes up above the case and it just sticks out too far. Whereas here, it's very, I mean, it won't fit with that in its current position. But if we were to move it, if I just sort of hold that there, if we were to move this just out a little bit, I reckon it might fit. So I'm thinking that might be the way to go if we can't get a water block for this particular card, or if I can't get hold of another 4090 that there are water blocks available for. Because the likes of EK and companies like that, they do generally make water blocks for different reference PCBs and custom PCBs and stuff like that. So it depends on what order they're doing it in. So yeah, I'm going to leave it up to you guys. What do you think we should do? 360mm in the rear. If we go water cooled GPU, we're going to put another one here. Should we, if we water cool it, keep the GPU here? Should we put it at the front? Should we put another rad at the front? Let me know in the comments section below, and I guess we'll do this as a part 1 and the next video as a part 2. Sorry guys, I wanted to do more today, but yeah, this video is going to be super long if I did, and without a water block and without actually measuring, we can't really do much else anyway. Yeah, let me know. What did you think of this type of video? It's been a while since we did a build. Maybe we'll do more kind of build log type videos like this in the future, especially with some of the chunkiest, biggest components on the market. There you go. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, a like and a sub to the channel would be amazing. And if you love what we do, consider supporting us over on Patreon. The link for that is down below. I might even put some behind the scenes-y stuff for this build on there as we kind of lead up to part 2. There you have it. See you in the next one. See you later, guys.